Alrighty, we are live.
We are live. Welcome into Down the Wire. I'm Brian Costa.
And I'm Carter Adams.
And we got a great show for you here tonight. We got a really special guest on the show tonight. My personal friend of mine, Patrick Edwards. Pat, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me, guys.
Yeah, so Pat, we really wanted to get you on the show because of really just kind of your take on some of your takes with football. Obviously, we're Pats fans. You are a Green Bay Packer fan, and we do want to get some takes on where you stand with the Packers right now. But first, I kind of wanted to jump in with things going on in the NCAA right now.
NCAA, all right.
So obviously, over the weekend, we saw the big story that dominated the weekend was that Notre Dame upsetted number one Clemson in a double overtime thriller, and ended 47-40. Just an absolute shootout of a game. But believe it or not, the game, which has now been labeled Game of the Year pretty much by a lot of people, that isn't even the big story. The big story, in fact, is that in the middle of a pandemic, all of the Notre Dame students decided to rush the field and possibly put their entire team at risk for the rest of the season. Which, this is the reason a lot of college teams aren't having fans in the stands right now.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, obviously a big win. I see why the fans and the students did that.
I mean, it's one of the biggest upsets that we'll see all year.
Oh, definitely.
Yeah. So, Pat, I know we were kind of seeing that play out live. Stupid college kids are going to do what we do, but, what were your takes on that when you saw that happen?
Notre Dame really screwed up Halloween a lot different than everybody else. I don't think anybody else did a football game. I'm not the biggest NCAA guy, but aren't they celebrating beating a backup quarterback?
No, I thought Trevor Lawrence is back.
I didn't think he was. I thought it was.
Oh, is it still DJ?
I didn't watch the game. Like he said, I'm with him. I'm not a big NCAA guy either, especially this season.
I mean, hell, I'm still being a number one seed ain't nothing, and DJ is still looking really solid for this team. But but just the fact that they did it anyways. Looking at it from a bird's eye view, literally kind of like how we were seeing it from a bird's eye view from like the blimps outside the stadium. We were just seeing like this mosh pit of people, and we were just like, how could people be doing this during this time? But if you're putting like us in the stands, I'm gonna be really tempted to not charge in that situation. That's a really tough situation to kind of just say like, oh yeah, I would have been totally respectful.
Yeah, no, you're right. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. It was just a crazy situation.
The people who go to football games right now are the people who are willing to charge the field. So I don't think you have exactly the best batch and the most cautious batch of people going to those games right now, anyways.
Yeah, makes sense.
Like Brian said, college students going to be college students.
Yeah, pandemic isn't gonna hold college kids down for too long.
Yeah, especially at a place like Notre Dame.
Oh yeah, the fact that this didn't happen before November is actually somewhat of a miracle.
Yeah, no, you're right.
So the fact that this hadn't happened earlier, I'll give it credit. I'll give it some credit a little bit.
This is really the first we've seen of it all season. But.
Yeah, for sure. But that was one of the big stories coming out of the weekend. Having this kind of tied to Clemson, it really a lot of people are wondering that, with Trevor Lawrence still kind of, having to battle back from COVID, and it really doesn't seem like it's going to be impacting where he lands in the NFL draft. He's still aiming to go number one overall. And, after the loss to the Patriots on Monday Night Football, the New York Jets seem more poised than ever to land that number one pick. Honestly, could lose every game this season with the way that they're playing.
Yeah.
It really looks like Trevor Lawrence is in the position for the New York Jets to swoop in and take him. However, one of the things that I did see, which was not really a shock, but it was like just surprising to see, is that New York Jets legend, Joe Namath basically came out and said, hey, if the Jets draft you, request a trade. And he just said, get the hell out of New York.
Wow.
And I'm just like, from the guy who led the Jets to a victory in Super Bowl III and basically said, like, hey, we're going to win this game, like, the absolute, basically GOAT in, basically the GOAT of quarterbacks in New York. This guy basically just comes in and says, don't let him take you. I don't know. Do you guys think that Trevor should do this? And pull basically what, is basically what would be very comparable to an Eli Manning situation?
What do you think, Pat?
I think a lot of it hangs on Adam Gase. We've seen the whole organization right now is toxic. It seems like it all comes back to the head coach, but it also looks like the head coach is going out the door in 8 games.
Yeah.
Who knows if they're going to get to replace him? Knowing the Jets, it'll be Freddie Kitchens. I think a lot of it is on if they make a quality coaching hire before the draft. That might reconsider whether Trevor stays or goes. But as it is right now, I wouldn't want to play in the Jets. I'd rather play in old Sam Reynolds. I'd rather play in the Jaguars under Tom Coughlin.
You'd rather play in Clemson for another year.
I'd rather play Clemson for another year. That's right.
I mean, but you also kind of run into the thing is, are you willing to take? I mean, I completely get the idea of not wanting to play in New York. I wouldn't want to either, but I feel like you're also like stuck having to toe the line between, is this going to be like detrimental to my career, or am I also going to, and like how much flack am I going to take for getting out of the Big Apple? So I don't know.
Yeah.
Like, do you think it's worth it? Getting out of the Big Apple and taking all that flack, kind of similar to what Eli did with San Diego. I mean, Eli got 2 rings out of it, so I would say so.
Yeah, no, I'd say it's worth it. Yeah, look at Philip Rivers.
Yeah. So poor guy couldn't even win a ring with them.
Yeah, he's still trying.
I mean, unfortunately now it's with Indy and Herbert seems to be doing better than he had been the past couple of years.
Yeah. I wouldn't blame Trevor Lawrence if, like you said, he took Joe Namath's advice and basically got out of there as quick as he could.
And said, "Do not take me.
Yeah.
Do not take me."
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I would want to. I don't want to say I respect the move, but I 100% know where he's coming from. It's football is all business, and it's just like, listen, if you know that you're going to go to the New York Jets, your career is going to end. Yeah. You're not going to have a successful career. I mean, look at a guy like Sam Darnold right now, whose career is just being. I mean, the guy seems to have a lot of potential, but just being in that New York system is just completely wasting whatever potential that guy has.
Yeah, and like, I don't want to make this comparison really, but Joe Burrow in a way. The way that the Bengals have just kind of failed to build around him so far. I mean, I'm sure they will in the future, but he doesn't have nearly enough help as he needs on the Bengals.
Yeah, I kind of feel that, especially with that atrocious offensive
the Bengals
line.
were kind of where the Jets were at one point.
Yeah,
just a dying franchise waiting for a spark to come and change them. And maybe if the Jets think Trevor Lawrence is that guy, then. If he's cooperative, things could work out.
They're gonna have to do a lot to please that guy. They're gonna have to say, all right, well, we're gonna get you like whatever your favorite weapon is. We're gonna get you this guy to New York, and that's gonna be a challenge in and of itself because just saying, hey, do you want to come to the New York Jets is basically saying, hey, do you want to come to the New York Knicks in NBA terms? It's a very difficult thing to sell.
Yeah, no, it is.
So I don't know. But Pat, one of the main reasons we wanted to get you on the show before we head off for the semester is because you are basically our token Green Bay Packers fan. You guys are basically living it up over there in the NFC North right now. You guys are currently 6-2, first place in the division. But there were some, I do kind of see some concerns going on. I don't know if those concerns are legitimate, but. The Packers seemed to be in the race to land a guy like Antonio Brown before he ended going down to Tampa, and apparently discussions were also floating about a possible Will Fuller trade. Carter's a big Will Fuller fan over here.
Yeah.
Are you kind of mad that ownership wasn't able to pony up and really go for these kind of weapons? And do you feel that the Packers are still legitimate threats to come out of the NFC regardless?
Well, we're 6-2. I feel like we're always a threat. I feel like almost any team's a threat. The Giants to win the NFC East at 6-10, and once you get to January, it's all about how you play in January.
Yeah.
But it's frustrating not making another move. Not so much on offense. We're watching offense scoring 35 points a game. Will Fuller would have been nice. I think Will Fuller would have made more of a difference than somebody like Marquez Valdes-Scantling. Antonio Brown's Antonio Brown. That guy gets his head together. He's the best wide receiver in the league.
Yeah.
But our defense has been atrocious. I don't know what Mike Pettit's doing. It's not working. We don't have any run stoppage. Our secondary lags behind after the first few seconds of each play. We needed defensive play stoppers, and we sat silent. And nobody even really talked about it, which was surprising to me. Everybody wanted Will Fuller. Will Fuller would have been nice. But if we lose in January, it's going to be the defense that kills us.
Yeah.
And that's silent on it.
Yeah, it makes sense. I mean, you look at a team like the Saints right now; they seem to have a kind of a well-rounded offense and defense coupled alike. And you even said that a guy like Antonio Brown if he gets his head together, he's one of the best wide receivers in the game. You guys also arguably have one of the best wide receivers in the game right now in Devontae Adams. Kind of just watching Devontae's development, from a fan's perspective, kind of just seeing this guy come up as, when he first kind of broke in the league, he was kind of like a 3 receiver kind of behind, Jordy and some of the other guys. What are your kind of thoughts on just the transformation that Devontae's been able to make over these past couple of years?
Jordy Nelson and James Jones just said this week Devontae Adams is better than any of them ever were, ever will be.
That's crazy.
Rodgers relies on him for better or worse, but when the guy's putting up 200 yards and 2 touchdowns every game, that can't be for the worse. And right now we're seeing maybe one of the best stretches of any receiver's career when he's healthy in Devontae Adams. Opening game, the man broke the Packers' all-time record for receptions in a game. He just had his career high at 196 yards in our last game. And in between, he had a subpar game, only 7 catches, only 50 yards, and he missed squeaking 3 touchdowns in his off day.
Yeah, I mean, the guy's just been a beast so far, and like you said, he is kind of having one of those seasons where when we look in the past, it's almost like a season that an OBJ had like in a 2016, or Julio Jones had, during the year of Super Bowl 51. He's just having one of those seasons where it's just absolutely incredible to watch. Yeah. And I mean, it's crazy because he's got that speed, but he's also kind of built a little more physically. He's kind of put on a little more muscle throughout the years, and he can actually really kind of, out physical some corners too.
Yeah, it's definitely been cool watching Devontae Adams come up through the ranks and
because I remember, I mean, I'm not even a fan of the Packers, but I remember just watching, this guy come up, and he was like a solid, rookie. It was like, wow, this guy's got a lot of promise, and for being a number 3 receiver, it was like at the time it was like wow, this guy could really go somewhere. And just to see him absolutely blossom into becoming the weapon that he is absolutely astounding.
Definitely, yeah.
I mean,
impressive.
I mean, but Pat, with the lack of moves, do you kind of have some frustrations towards ownership? I mean, during the draft, before this draft, the last offensive weapon the Packers had taken in a draft was Aaron Rodgers in the first round, and the only one after that was the replacement in Jordan Love. With a kind of another, I don't want to call it a blunder, but just like another missed opportunity at the deadline. Do you kind of really have some frustrations towards that Packers ownership? Because I know that, the Packers ownership is kind of done a little differently than most other owners. It's not generally in one place. It's kind of split up amongst like a bunch of people. Do you kind of have some frustrations going on with stuff going down there right now?
So team president Mark Murphy mostly silent on this. Just Brian Gutekunst, the general manager, didn't make any moves, and it's more confusion. I mean, he's taking over for Ted Thompson. Ted Thompson was in the role for 13 years, never made any major trades. His drafts after Aaron Rodgers weren't at all extremely notable, and it cost him his job.
Yeah.
So one would think that Gutekunst would come in and completely change the culture, operate in an entirely different manner, and it's not happening.
Yeah.
So I would say a lot of confusion, but also we made some big free agent splashes a year ago in the Smith brothers, major defensive move, and yet it's our defense struggling this year. If we don't go in the draft and we go out and we spend because we have money, that's fine. Buying a ring, drafting a ring, whatever, you're getting a ring. But when you sit complacent, that's not going to happen. And after so much improvement in 2019, people thought we were going to regress. And I think the front office looked and knew that we weren't going to, and so far we haven't. But the NFC Championship game isn't enough. We need 2 more wins, and they didn't go out and get us those 2 more wins.
Yeah. I mean, so if you had your druthers, if there, I mean, obviously I'm not going to be like, oh yeah, get any receiver you could think of like a Julio Jones, but if thinking of a possible guy that's available, who do you think would in terms of offense, who would you really want to see Rodgers throwing the ball to, if it became available either next year or whatever, who would be that guy that you think the Packers could have a shot at landing? Would it be maybe like an OBJ after he's torn his ACL and might need might basically need a prove-it deal, maybe something like that?
Well, that especially OBJ's coming back. If you can get him on a short deal, a cheap deal, a prove yourself deal, that's fine. The whole is win now with Rodgers. 1 and 2 year deals is fine because that seems to be what our window is.
Yeah, and I mean, especially I feel like with what's going on with Rodgers there, it's almost kind of similar to almost similar to like what Tampa is trying to surround a guy like Brady with, because it's almost like it's kind of just a shorter window at this point. And it's like I feel like Green Bay, it would be a very smart move because it's like we really don't know how much Rodgers has left, at least as a Packer. And I feel like if you're Green Bay, you should go out and you should just surround this guy with as many weapons and try to get a second ring out of Rodgers. I feel like that would be the move.
Yeah, and then do whatever you can with a 3-year deadline. Let's win by 22. That's our window. Let's win now, which is more the reason why I don't understand the trades. If this is 2005 or 2008, you're just starting out with Rodgers, no trade is the end of the world. The window is 10, 15 years, not 10, 15 months.
Yeah, 100%. And then, I mean, I think the Packers, frankly, have a lot of potential going forward. I do agree with you that, they will be able to make a pretty good run in the playoffs. I also think that it is a good point that the defense does need to be evaluated, even though a lot of people were kind of disappointed about that offense. I kind of want to shift away from the Packers and, onto some New England sports. There are some recent reports coming out that that after he tore that it wasn't a torn ACL, but after an injury. Basically, after another season-ending injury, there have been talks about a possible Jimmy Garoppolo reunion in New England. I know that even though you're not a Pats fan, you were basically in favor of the Pats holding on to Jimmy G and dealing Brady around the time of Super Bowl 52 in that season. Do you think that basically with the way the Pats are going this year, it would be more than wise to go back and basically go to and try to get him back in New England?
I was a big Jimmy G guy a few years ago. I was a big Jimmy G guy before he signed a 9-figure contract towards the ACL. I don't know if that's – you're trying to play with a quarterback this year, Cam Newton. You're 3-5.
Yeah.
What better can you expect to do with Jimmy Garoppolo? That's a chance, and I don't know if you want to take that chance.
Yeah, I don't know. I feel like if Bill is still calling the shots GM wise and Jimmy Garoppolo is available, I think Bill is 100% going to make that move. Because I feel like, hurt or not, I feel like Bill looks at a guy like Jimmy and says, yeah, I know that San Francisco may not have been able to get the most out of you, but I feel like in Bill's heart he probably feels that like, oh, I can take you to the next level. I feel like that's what's going on.
How are you getting Jimmy G for cheap though? Patriots' problem is money.
Obviously, but I'm not 100% sure as to how the move would occur. I just know that the rumors are out there, and I'm just like, I don't know. I just feel like that if he goes on the market, I feel like Bill wouldn't hesitate to kind of go in and make a move.
Yeah, realistically, I don't really see anything like that happening. I'm sure Bill Belichick has a lot of interest, but. I'd like to see Jimmy Garoppolo back in New England, that's for sure. 100%. But I also agree with Pat that if this Patriots team isn't doing it with Cam Newton, what's saying we're going to do with Jimmy Garoppolo?
Yeah, it is difficult to say. I mean, I know that Cam Newton's style and Jimmy's style are very different. Jimmy kind of has a play style that's much similar to Brady's style when he was here. So I think that could definitely benefit the Pats and Belichick a little more because they could go back to some of the plays that worked a little better for Brady when he was still at it, when he was still, really performing in New England. That's my personal take on it. I feel like if you could get him back and, basically run some of those plays that got you success over the past 20 years, I feel like that's how you should be doing it.
Yeah, definitely.
But I don't know. That's just me.
I said this on the show before. I want to see if Pat agrees with me. I've said previously that Jimmy Garoppolo playing, specifically the transition from last season into this season, he's been playing like 1 or 2 more seasons on the bench behind Tom Brady in New England would have benefited him a lot in his career.
I can see that. We talked about Aaron Rodgers being a fantastic quarterback and lifting that offense.
Yeah.
I don't know if he would have done it if he, and then right before that, Trevor Lawrence. If he went to Green Bay and started in 2005, I don't know if he'd be that great. He spent 3 years under Brett Favre. the best quarterback of his generation. So if you give any quarterback time under a successful quarterback, and that quarterback takes you under their wing, that could do wonders, and that might have made the difference.
Yeah, I mean,
might have. Yeah,
I mean, Brady really kind of. I mean, like you were saying, take it under his wing. That's pretty much what Brady did with. That's pretty much what Brady did with Jimmy. I mean, although he was kind of displeased that originally the Pats did draft a guy who was, probably going to be his replacement, he did seem to kind of take a liking to Jimmy, and from basically what I've heard, they do seem to have some sort of a friendship.
Yeah.
You were saying that Rodgers spent 3 years on the bench. At the same time, Jimmy got traded. I believe that was about how many years he had spent on the bench. So while having more time, to sit behind Brady would have been great. I feel like basically his time to sit back and wait was kind of coming to an end, especially because the only way they could have gotten him back at that point was to franchise tag him, which would have been just an absolute detriment to the team because you're franchise tagging a backup quarterback, and it's just like, I don't know. I feel like that's just going to cause way more problems. That also would have. I feel like that also would have caused a guy like Brady to become way more, irritated. Obviously, that irritation caused him to leave New England after the 2019 season.
Yeah.
But I feel like at the time it just wouldn't have made sense at all to franchise tag a backup quarterback, and I feel like at that point Brady probably would have exited a little sooner.
Yeah, it's just to me at least the way that the 49ers have almost like. I don't want to say crumbled because a lot of their issue is just injuries on injuries on injuries.
Yeah, but guys like Jimmy, Kittle,
the way that team can go from 100 to 0 so quick, it almost makes me wonder if there's a little bit of inexperience at the quarterback position. That's my take on Jimmy Garoppolo. I think he could have used a little bit more time in New England. I know the circumstances didn't work out that way, but
100%. I know
for his own career.
Yeah, I mean, I know the circumstances aren't in his favor, but I mean, obviously, time will obviously help him, but again, to my point, it's just a matter of like, how much time can you have this guy sit on the bench? It's like, taking 5 years of this guy's career and just saying, all right, you're going to sit and you're not going to start until like you're like 30.
Mm-hmm.
Like that's not really going to do too much for the Pats because at that point, it's almost like I feel like if you're starting a 30-year-old quarterback in the next generation of your offense, it's almost just like going out there and basically trying to sign a veteran at that point.
Yeah, but Jimmy G, he was almost thrown into a perfect situation in San Francisco, and then that team just couldn't capitalize on it in the Super Bowl, and I hope that that isn't carrying over into the season and possibly the future, because I would like to see Jimmy G and the 49ers bounce back at some point.
Yeah, 100%. I'm hoping that Kyle Shanahan isn't basically causing another team to unfortunately wither away like what happened with the Atlanta Falcons after Super Bowl 51. I hope that's not the case.
And even like Sean McVay with the Rams.
Yeah, honestly,
in a way.
I mean, they're coming. They're actually making somewhat more of a comeback.
Yeah.
I mean that entire division in general. Like people were talking about it before Jimmy went down, and they were saying that division, like with the expanded playoffs because of this year, they were saying that every single team in that division could have made the playoffs, which is absolutely insane that you could finish last in your division but still have a shot to win the Super Bowl.
Yeah, they're stacked. Yeah,
absolutely. I mean, it's just been. If I don't know. Maybe if they had had all the weapons to get back to the playoffs, they could have made a more significant run, and maybe they could have surprised a lot of people. Kind of similar to what the Philadelphia Eagles did the year after their Super Bowl, when they didn't end up winning it, but they were able to eke out a couple games here and there and surprise some people. I feel like maybe they could have had that sort of a run come the playoffs.
Definitely.
That was my personal take on it. But with the way the injury bug just hit them this year, it was just it completely took all the air out of the tires.
Definitely, yeah.
But also in the NFL, we were talking about possibilities coming. We were talking about possibilities in New England. But in the present going on right now in New England, the Patriots held on for a narrow victory against the New York Jets. They won thanks to a Nick Folk game-winning field goal. Joe Flacco had like 3 touchdowns. I mean.
Absolutely balled out.
The guy looks like himself from 2012. I mean, that's why Barstool Sports ironically calls him an elite quarterback. I don't know. The fact that it took that for the Pats to get the dub against the Jets was absolutely atrocious. I mean, that was just rough. That was a game where you were just basically holding on for dear life, and it was like please do not lose to the freaking Jets. We cannot do this.
This has really come down to a field goal with 3 seconds left, but my fingers are still crossed.
By Nick freaking Folk.
Yeah.
And it's just like, I don't know. The Pats and Jets, usually you can always assume that the Pats are gonna do what they do against the Jets and stuff like that, and usually they'll put like a pounding on them. But like every couple of years, whether this year or not, like for some reason, like the Pats can be firing on all cylinders, but they'll be facing like the Ryan Fitzpatrick Jets, and they'll give them a challenge. And I'm just like, and I just don't get it. I'm just like, what the hell?
Yeah, it's very unpredictable.
Yeah.
But I hope the fashion of this win could cause a little bit of momentum to go our way, because we definitely need it.
100%. Pat, are you still there?
Yeah. Yes. Sorry.
Yeah. We just lost you for a sec. Yeah. All right. So we know you got to get going in a little bit, Pat, but we just want to get your take real quick on just basically the way the Pats are playing this year, and what are your thoughts of like what they should basically do in terms of turning things around after that's a W, but that's almost like a pseudo loss that you basically took against New England. Against not New England, New York.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts on basically just like the Pats in general this season?
My diagnosis, wait for all those players that opted out because of COVID to come back, find a quarterback that can actually throw the football. If you can't do that, you're not going to win. But there is more hope than usual for the Pats, I think, next year.
Yeah.
They've never struggled they haven't struggled this long in more than 20 years.
Yeah.
But typically when this team starts to struggle after a steal like that, it's only going to get worse. But they have a lot of players that aren't playing because of an unprecedented event. So wait for 2021 and hope for that not going to rebuild mode.
Yeah. Do you think that Stidham could be that guy to lead them to basically lead it out, or do you think that they should try to actually reevaluate at that position?
We'll have to see.
Yeah,
he's got to get some playing time.
Yeah, I know you're watching the Pats too closely on that sort of a thing, so I get it.
But I will say though, you mentioned.
I'm
sorry. Go ahead.
If the Patriots keep losing and you're looking down and out in the playoff hunt, you're sitting the ball the last 2 games. See what you can do. Second half 2021 if it goes well.
Yeah, and if you end up losing games, Justin Fields, baby, Justin Fields. Get that man. Yeah, get that man in New England. Hell yeah. Oh, I don't even know. I don't really care. Just anyone at this point who can I thought that Cam would be doing a little better at this point, but it's just been an absolute disappointment out of this.
Ohio State quarterbacks in the NFL, that's a no-no. But
yeah, true.
But
I don't know.
Pat, I will say you brought up Cam Newton not being able to throw the football, and I feel like a lot of people don't realize this until they actually see it, but his throwing motion is atrocious. It's horrible. He steps with the wrong foot. Like, it's so bad. And most of the time he's whipping the ball like 20 yards over his receivers.
Yeah.
That's a problem. He can't throw the football correctly.
Well, I mean,
you're right.
For some reason, I don't know what it is. It may be the shoulder injury more than anything, but when he came to New England, I thought, Bill was going to definitely try to make him more of a pass-heavy quarterback. But it seems like he's been more run-reliant than ever.
Yes.
And, that has definitely surprised me because I thought, I thought it would be like, oh, a nice run here and there. Like, he can, maybe you can have him scramble on a boot or something like that. And I was like, oh, yeah, it'll be, nice and, maybe you can do stuff like that. But no, Cam Newton has to have, designed runs for him. And, the passes have a lot of people just, shaking their hands and stuff.
It's atrocious because he's not accurate at all. He can whip it, but I even saw that in Carolina. Sometimes he'll just stand in the pocket and just flick his wrist. And it's irritating.
Mm-hmm. Any thoughts on that, Pat?
What can you do?
Yeah,
learn how to throw. I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't really know how he got drafted.
Yeah,
but
I mean, I can tell you how he got drafted.
The man, at this point, it's past whatever he can do to fix this team.
Yeah, I agree. But Pat, I know you do have to get going, so I just wanted to. So I just did want to thank you for coming on the show tonight. I really appreciate it. I really just want to get your take on the Packers and just where they're at right now. If you had to give a prediction about before you head off, if you had to give a prediction, what's the ceiling for the Packers this year?
Ceiling's always Super Bowl. We just gotta see how the defense plays.
All right.
Oh, he throws around that word always like they've won a Super Bowl in the past 10 years.
Yeah, I know. Well, I don't know. We'll have to see. Pat, once again, I thank you so much for coming on the show. I mean, I really do appreciate it. It's likely the next time we have you on, it'll be next semester. So we thank you so much for coming on. We'll see you next time.
As always, thank you.
Thanks for having me, guys. And shout out Trevor Bauer for that Cy Young Award for your next topic.
100%. We will talk about that. Later, folks.
Adios.
We'll see you tomorrow, guys.
See you. All right. Yeah. So so it was obviously great having Pat on the show. It's always great when when we're able to get any guests on the show for basically any matter. It's just always nice to have an extra voice.
Oh, definitely, yeah.
Yeah. So I mean, Pat's take on the Packers, I do think it's instrumental that ceiling is Super Bowl. Of course it is. Of course it's the Super Bowl.
Yeah.
But you got to do what you got to do. But also in the NFL, getting back into it, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers got absolutely shellacked on Sunday Night Football by the Saints.
I kind of enjoyed watching that.
It was a good pain.
It was.
It was a good pain.
It was okay. Antonio Brown could come out and absolutely ball tonight.
Yeah. No, the discussion coming out was how good is Antonio Brown going to be, and it just turned into, wow, the Bucs might be a pack of frauds.
5 fantasy points. What?
Yeah, it was like oh my god.
Yeah, but unfortunately, I have a feeling we'll see that team coming back next week better than ever.
I know. I think that this does kind of beg the question of is this Saints team, is it more just like a bunch of good players that are this Bucs team rather, is this just a bunch of good like players that are just on the field, or is this a collective team? And I feel like that loss kind of showed that it's more just, I feel like it's just more of a hodgepodge of players at this point.
Yeah, it's easy to think about a team like this Buccaneers team like that, but they've shown before that they can play like a team and they can win like a team.
Yeah, and
the record shows it.
But I feel like this is almost kind of similar, maybe not an exact idea, but almost similar to what the Miami Heat were when they kind of built their super team, because they had a bunch of stars down there, and it was like, oh my god, they have all this star power. It's going to be absolutely crazy. And then they come out and then they basically come out and it's just like, and it's like, all right, they need to gel. And like that's been the entire story of that first year they were all together. It was like they need to gel, and they come back and they do gel, and they basically became they ended up winning the 2 rings that they did.
Mm-hmm.
I think that this Bucs team could definitely do this. So I do think that an extra year and an extra offseason is definitely going to help these guys, especially if the pandemic isn't a factor next offseason.
Yeah.
So I think that will definitely help out some teams. But I do think there are some serious concerns. But with those concerns also has a lot of possible hope for the Saints team, and a lot of people think that the Saints team, after the pounding they gave the Bucs, honestly have a shot to be the Super Bowl favorites out of the NFC.
I don't know if I'd go out of the NFC.
Really?
I'd still roll with the Packers out of the NFC.
You would?
Yes.
Really?
But NFC South, I would take the Saints at this point.
I don't know. I mean, that seems. I mean, as Pat was saying on the show, I mean, the thing the Packers are really kind of struggling with still is that defense. And the Saints have that defense.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, they have
very good.
Yeah, and they have Mike Thomas, they have Alvin Kamara, they have the Swiss Army knife and Taysom Hill that can literally.
They've already beat Tampa Bay twice.
Yeah.
Already.
So any playoff matchup that they have, they're going to have the home field advantage.
Yeah, you're right.
So I don't know. I feel like the Saints definitely have the edge at least this season.
After you said that, yeah, you're right. The Saints definitely do, because the Packers' defense is definitely nowhere near where it should be.
Yeah.
But
I mean, like Pat was saying, they do have the Smith brothers, and they do have some potential there, but
it's a weak link.
And the Seahawks do seem poised with the MVP and Russ. But after seeing what the Saints did, and this may just be being caught up in the moment, but I really do think that the Saints could that the Saints will be representing the NFC in the Super Bowl after seeing that game.
It's going to be almost way too early to say this.
Yeah.
But my sleeper pick out of the NFC, the Tennessee Titans of this year, making a run. I don't know if it's going to be as deep of a run, but making a playoff run for the first time in a while, the Arizona Cardinals.
That is.
I can see it happening.
Okay.
That team looks amazing. Amazing.
I mean, if I had to think of sleeper picks, I mean, also at the NFC, I mean, you have the Seattle Seahawks coming out there, but even the LA Rams honestly have a shot to do some stuff too. I mean, we had mentioned that every team had a shot of coming out, but Sean McVay is kind of leading that team back in a kind of a silent way and just being like, all right, we're just gonna hide back for a little bit, give it some time, and when it gets to the playoffs, we're gonna come out and we're gonna attack.
Yeah,
and I feel like this Rams team is definitely going to surprise some people.
I think it'll surprise some people, but that Rams team is missing one thing, and that's a good quarterback.
Yeah,
as much as I hate to say it, your quarterback is rich, but your quarterback,
he is a standard. Yeah, he is basically just a cardboard cutout.
He is. Yeah,
I don't know. I will give you that. I mean, after the way he just completely just had a meltdown in the Super Bowl, I think that I don't know. I think that the Cardinals definitely would be the better team, but I'll definitely say watch out for the Rams.
I'd say if there's one team out of the NFC that strikes me with that sense of fire and integrity like the Titans did last season, it's going to be the Cardinals.
Yeah. I don't know if I'd call them the Tennessee Titans. Maybe you're talking about it in terms of the deep run they're making. I don't know. I mean, Cliff Kingsbury has done a great job building that team up back up from the absolute depths that they were in. Kyler Murray's going to be, on the level I think that Russell Wilson is on now in a couple of years. I mean, obviously he's a little shorter and he's a little quicker, so I think that his style will be probably a little bit different from Russ. But I feel like he's literally just going to be a mini Russell Wilson.
No, I can see that because that's honestly the one quarterback who I would compare Kyler Murray to. He's shorter, but earlier in Russell Wilson's career, he was leaving the pocket not as much as Kyler Murray, but he was.
But he was like that rushing type of guy, and
But as he's aged, like any other quarterback should, I'm sure Kyler Murray would stay in the pocket a lot more.
Yeah,
like Russell Wilson.
And I mean, a lot of people compare. We were just saying Kyler Murray is kind of a comparison to Russell Wilson, and a lot of people are comparing Russell Wilson in his older years now to what Drew Brees has become. So it's almost like that comparison, just trend line, and it's almost like if Kyler Murray can turn into what a Russell Wilson is, and then through time evolve into what Drew Brees is, where it's like maybe you're not as mobile anymore, but you can still scramble around and make some plays. That's a Hall of Fame career right there.
Yeah.
If that can be your trajectory, that's a Hall of Fame career.
Kyler Murray's arm is ridiculous too for his size.
Oh yeah.
Every time I'm watching him, it's like the short little dude standing in the pocket. You don't even see his arm.
It's like seeing
the ball launch.
It's like some sort of a video game cheat code.
It's like, oh, there's D-Hop downfield.
Yeah, he just had it in stride, and I mean that was the perfect place for D-Hop to go.
Perfect.
Because I mean, you have Kyler who's on a rookie deal. He's still a couple years out from getting paid. D-Hop's able to go there, get a massive deal, and by the time Kyler's contract is up, the Cardinals are going to be in a good enough financial situation to where they can pay him and surround him with good weapons. You also have a ton of veteran experience there with a guy like Larry Fitz, who's just I feel like been able to completely nurture Kyler and just been able to really
force in that locker room.
Absolutely. He's been able to do so much with the guy.
Yeah.
So I mean, I will give you that. That's a good pick. That's a good pick out of the NFC.
Definitely.
If they could make a run, then they could give a team like the Saints or the Bucs their money for sure.
Yeah. What about out of the AFC? Who are you thinking?
AFC. I mean, I was talking to John. We were going to have him on the show tonight, John Warren, and he basically was taking the Bills.
Yeah, I see that. That's almost not even really a sleeper pick.
I don't really know if I'm
projected to win the AFC East.
I don't know if I'm liking the idea of the Bills though. I just don't know if they're going to be able to represent the AFC and the Super Bowl.
I mean, not in the Super Bowl, but in terms of making some sort of a run.
I think the Bills can make some sort of run. It's probably not a sleeper pick because they're undefeated, but I do think that the Pittsburgh Steelers are going to be a more legitimate threat in the playoffs than people are probably thinking they are. They are undefeated, and people are like, oh, they're undefeated, they're so great. But, people are still sleeping on them. They're probably saying, oh, the Chiefs might be able to do it. The Ravens are going to be, when Lamar Jackson gets running, he'll be able to, outlast the Steelers. But I really do think that Big Ben has been able to come back in a big way. And I feel like when the actual lights of the playoffs are on, I do think that the Steelers team will be able to shine. And I think that there's a lot of hope for Pittsburgh fans.
I really do too. That Steelers team fails to impress me.
And it's weird seeing an undefeated team and he's saying like, oh yeah, they're kind of an underdog, but that really is kind of the mentality of the season.
The Steelers last season, they were the last team predicted to be undefeated this year.
Yeah.
It was the Chiefs of everybody, and I don't know.
Yeah, and I mean, they've just been outpredicting all standards.
At least in the playoffs, though, you mentioned the Chiefs.
Yeah,
I think the Chiefs still have that advantage. Maybe not in the regular season, but in the playoffs, I think Patrick Mahomes and that Chiefs team.
Yeah, I mean, you got Kelsey, you got Tyreek, and just adding Le'Veon Bell at this point, it is kind of just a spoil of riches. But I don't know. I mean, I'd like to see the Chiefs go down early. I mean,
wouldn't we all? Please.
Well, yeah, obviously that's what everyone wants to see. But I mean, just seeing it happen and just seeing like a team like the Steelers come in and just completely mess up their season and mess up their dream would be great just for football in general.
I think this postseason, determines the future of Patrick Mahomes' career. I really do.
Really?
If Pat Mahomes can get it together and win another Super Bowl this season, I think the Chiefs have a very strong chance to start a dynasty. But like other teams have proven in the past, like the Saints, like the Packers, you can get to a Super Bowl, you can win it, but if you don't come back the next season with that same integrity, all your progress is going to be lost. Because look at Drew Brees and Aaron Rodgers. When's the last time they played in the Super Bowl?
Yeah, sure.
When they won.
Literally, honestly. I mean, if you had to pick, if a guy like Pat Mahomes makes it to the Super Bowl again and wins it in an almost an MVP type fashion, where do you place him in that? Obviously, he's had a very young career, and I think he needs a couple more years before you can actually say this. But where do you place him in that greatest of all time discussion?
If he can win another one this year,
yeah. Do you think he's actually up there at this point, or do you think that?
I think he's actually up there because he's taken his extremely short career and proved that he could do more with it in that time than people like Drew Brees and Aaron Rodgers have been able to do.
Yeah, I mean, I don't want to say that him winning that second ring will absolutely just trump that, because it's like, you do have to have that longevity, and you have to prove that you can do this over more than a span of just 3 years.
As much as I hate to say it, records are probably a part of it too. 100%. Even though I really just don't view records and Super Bowls as the same. Records are broken. Winning Super Bowl is placing your mark in history.
Yeah, I mean, if he can do that in that sort of way, then I think people are going to really have to step aside and just be like, and actually like have that serious conversation of, is this guy actually better than this person? And it's going to be like, I mean, it's going to be like, well, Drew Brees has only made it to a Super Bowl this many times, and I feel like a lot of people are just going to be like, they're going to have to look themselves in the mirror and go,
"You're right."
Yeah, honestly, I feel like that's just what's going to happen.
Yeah, like Pat Mahomes has really turned this league upside down.
Yeah,
everything about it.
Mm-hmm. But yeah, so oh shoot, that seems weird. But also in NFL news before we end up transitioning, there's some reports that Houston Texans defensive end J.J. Watt reportedly wants out of Houston. There have been a couple of rumored destinations as to where he could go. Some of the top three that I listed where he could possibly go to Pittsburgh to team up with his brothers and kind of have a little thing going on there. That would be kind of fun to see.
Mm-hmm.
He could go to try to ring chase with a team like the Chiefs, which would be just overpowered at that point.
Yeah.
Or he could just try to create the all-star team that seems imminent at this point, and just go to Tampa Bay and team up with Ndamukong Suh on that line.
Yeah.
So I mean, if you had to think right now, where would you pick a guy like J.J. Watt to go?
Are we talking about right now? Or are we talking about
next season?
Next season. Okay. Yeah. Next season?
Yeah.
Arizona Cardinals.
Really?
Yeah. Look at that team. It's like they're talented. They're proving that they can win. If a guy like J.J. Watt doesn't see that as an opportunity to go win a ring, because isn't that why he wants out of Houston?
Yeah,
he doesn't have a lot of time left.
Yeah, he basically said that he doesn't have a lot of time left, and he doesn't want to be part of another rebuilding process because he came into the NFL and that's what he's been in forever. And
literally,
and he had that shot in that playoff run last year, and the Texans have just completely regressed after the D Hop
blew up.
Yeah, Bill O'Brien completely just trashed that team, and I don't blame J.J. Watt for just being there, and he's probably like, I've been loyal to this team for so long, but we're not going anywhere, and I want to have that chance to leave my mark.
I feel like more players need to have that mentality too.
I mean, I respect the loyalty, though. I really do. I mean, I respect the idea.
Respect the loyalty.
I mean, So here's the thing. I respect that idea of remaining loyal to your team, but I don't want guys like a Joe Thomas to stick up their entire career with the Cleveland Browns, start every game, and just be on a trash franchise for your entire career and not be recognized for it.
Yeah, you got to balance the loyalty with trying to make your mark. Yeah, being great. I don't know.
So I mean, it's actually funny. Like you said, the Arizona Cardinals similar to your kind of wild card pick. I think I'm going to go with the LA Rams again for my wild card pick as to where JJ Watt can go.
Yeah, I can see that.
I mean, team up with Aaron Donald on that line, just create an absolute force over there. I think, but if he is trying to, actually get that ring, Casey's the obvious pick. Get him there.
Or Pittsburgh. I mean, Pittsburgh, that would be a cool story.
Obviously that'd be a cool story. You have the Evans brothers in Buffalo and Pittsburgh, and then you could have the Lott brothers there too.
I guess that just depends on how long Big Ben sticks around.
Yeah, sure, and it's also just a matter of is JJ trying to ring chase and basically just get the ring and not think about it, or is he trying to have the experience of winning it with his brothers? Like, is he trying to just have the experience of winning the ring, or is he trying to have a little something extra with it?
I guess we'll have to see what happens. I mean,
honestly,
there's not too much else I can say.
Mm-hmm. But so that pretty much covers everything we have going on in the NFL so far. To transition over to the MLB, I wanted to talk about a couple things. Mainly, the Red Sox. We obviously talked about it. They re-signed they re-signed manager Alex Cora, and they also brought back, they seem to really be poised to make some runs in free agency. I originally thought that if they didn't bring back a guy like Cora, Hein Bloom was going to go to more of a rebuild. But with this move, I'm a little more confident that we're going to see, we're actually going to see some moves in the free agency. Do you think it would be wise for the Sox to do this, or do you think they should hold out?
Moves in free agency?
Yeah, do you think that they should go for it this offseason, or do you think they should actually try to have more of a systematic rebuild?
Somewhere in between, I'd say. You got to sign a few guys. Your team can't play the way you did this season, but you also want to rebuild in some way. I say don't go for it all this season, because this is obviously not the season where your stars are going to align. But you know what I mean?
In between though is always kind of a tough thing though, because if you're in that purgatory, it's just you're just stuck in mediocrity forever. And it's at that point it's like you have to almost
sign some pitchers, man. Sign some pitchers.
Obviously, I mean that's going to be the big thing for the Pats. Not for the Pats, for the Red Sox. Excuse me.
Yeah.
But obviously the Red Sox. You just said they need some pitching needs. Pat brought it up early in the night. Since Cincinnati Reds pitcher Trevor Bauer won the Cy Young Award tonight for the NL unanimously. Mm-hmm. The guy was an absolute stud this season, and besides just being a great pitcher, he's also been known for calling out the MLB for a bunch of their bad decisions, and so he's been a fan favorite in that respect too. I would love to see Boston get a guy like him. I think that I feel like he would fit well with the culture. I feel like he would just really mesh with it, and he'd have just a ton of fun up here.
Yeah,
a lot of guys come up here and they don't really have thick skin, and a lot of stuff from the media can really affect them. But I feel like if Trevor Bauer was to come up here, I think that he could really handle it well.
I'm not too familiar with the guy, but just from what you're saying about him, yes, I feel like that could be a great fit. Someone who's going to call out the league for their bullshit, pretty much.
Really?
Yeah, but I really think that that's something you try to pull the trigger on after your team's rebuilt a little bit. The last thing you want to do is waste precious years of someone like Trevor Bauer's career.
Mm-hmm.
Because Cy Young winner.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, get into the Red Sox and go for it and try to contend. I'd love to see it. I mean, obviously, when the Red Sox are winning, everyone's happy up here. And, just seeing a guy like that, a character up in Boston, that's what we love to see. Definitely. I mean, obviously not a cocky character that's gonna drive people crazy and be more of a problem in that sort of a way, like Antonio Brown was with the Patriots. But a kind of guy that people of Boston can rally around, similar to what a guy like Alex Verdugo is being right now, where
even like David Ortiz in a way.
Yeah, anything, just anything.
The highest example.
Yeah, anything that can get the fans to rally behind you is obviously a win.
Yeah, definitely.
And then how much time do we have left? I just want to see how much time we have left in the show tonight before we end up having to go down to the wire. We got about 10 minutes left in this show. So I actually want to transition over to the NBA real quick. We actually left you guys on a little bit of a cliffhanger.
Oh yeah.
Before our last show, we were talking about James Harden to Philly, and our ideas on it. We decided to leave that up for this show. We obviously these rumors are based around the idea that Daryl Morey has become the new president of basketball ops over with the 76ers, and that one of the moves that have been talked about for him to make have been signing a guy or trading for a guy like a James Harden. Some people have been saying that why would the Houston Rockets ever trade someone like James Harden? But we had our token Rockets fan Jake Martian on the show. He gave his thoughts on it, and he honestly thinks that the Rockets should get rid of Harden basically to create a more well-rounded team. Do you think that Harden to Philly is it a possibility, or do you think that it's really just...
Oh, it's more than a possibility.
Really?
I've been hearing reports that the Rockets front office is going through talks with James Harden and Russell Westbrook about possibly dismantling.
Yeah, I know there were some talks about about trades with, I think it was the Knicks or the Clippers to possibly acquire Russell Westbrook.
Okay.
Yeah, so
I hear that. But...
So if the Rockets go that route, they're just going to go full rebuild and just say, all right,
James Harden. That's so frustrating, man. It's so frustrating.
Or they trade both and they go full rebuild. I don't know. Do they go tank mode and just say we're going to try to trust the process down in Texas?
I mean, honestly, it might be there. like that franchise just might be at that point where that's what they need to do.
Where it's just they unfortunately just can't break through, and it's like maybe we have to do this and start over, which definitely isn't an easy decision because it does just seem like they are a piece away, and to basically blow it up at this point would just kind of be not foolish, but it would just kind of sting a little bit because it'd be like, wow, it would just be the biggest what if.
It would sting, but it's almost like a candidate dropping out of a race or something. Like it's like the Rockets have been there, present for so long, but just unable to capitalize on it.
Yeah.
I don't know. Maybe that's what they need.
I don't know. I kind of agree with Jake's sentiment that if Harden could get sent if Harden could go to Philly for a guy like, I don't see them ever dealing a guy like Joel Embiid, but if Houston says it takes Joel Embiid to get James Harden, I feel like they might just say, all right, we're gonna pull the trigger and we're gonna get this guy.
Yeah, if there's gonna be another team that I think James Harden has a possibility of going to, it's gotta be Philly.
Yeah, I think the Philadelphia 76ers
is the only spot where he's really gonna fit and potentially play well.
And I think it's the only team that's going to end up wanting to take on that huge contract.
Yeah, and that team's either going to play extremely well or it's going to blow up.
Oh yeah,
like many other teams.
Yeah, but I feel like similar to kind of what the Houston Rockets are going through right now. I mean, the entire process era for the Sixers has only gotten them really so far, and I feel like they're probably just like, if we get James Harden and you have him, you have Tobias, you have Ben Simmons, and just a couple other guys to name a few, I feel like that's probably their last drop. Just going, all right, we're just going for it at this point. If we can't do it with this, then it's unfortunate.
It's time to retrust the process.
Yes, unfortunately, it will be time to retrust the process, which would just be horrible for them. But
I just wanted to throw this in there quick. Talking about NBA free agency.
Yeah,
the season is beginning on December 22nd. That's almost a month away. Almost a month away. NBA free agency is lasting an entirety of 2 days. There is a 2-day NBA free agency period from November 20th to November 22nd. So let's get prepared for some headlines during those 2 days because it is going to be insane.
That is going to be
crazy.
Ridiculous.
We are going to be seeing headline after headline after headline. This player went here. This player went there. I honestly can't wait. I wish we were going to be around here on campus to talk about.
Yeah, that would have been awesome to talk about. That would have been
lots of material.
That is going to be a crazy scenario.
Oh yeah,
my God. But you were saying that the NBA season is only starting a month away.
Yeah.
Something I've been thinking about is how is that like limited amount of time? I know the NBA draft is taking place. I think in about a week. I think it's literally a week from today.
Yeah, 2 days before free agency starts.
Yeah, so the NBA draft is literally happening in a week. And then the season's basically starting a month from then.
Yeah.
I'm kind of concerned as to how these rookies are going to be able to adapt with this limited time prepared. Like, how are they going to be able to gel with their new team? How are they going to be able to deal with guys like how are they going to really be able to come into the NBA?
You're throwing them on the roster on November 18th,
and you're starting
a month later.
Yeah, you're starting December 22nd, and it's just like, oh yeah, they'll be in sync. It's like, no.
But I do think the beginning, at least, of the NBA season, maybe except for the exception of Christmas, I do think the beginning of the season is almost going to be like kind of like a summer league.
It's also going to be a little bit of a preseason too, because there have already been reports of guys like LeBron, saying that they're going to cherry pick the early parts of the season.
Yeah,
I feel like that's just what's going to happen, and that may just be the perfect amount of time that these rookies need to get in and learn their roles with the team and try to learn the offense and stuff that way.
I mean, if people can watch LeBron in our generation effectively cherry pick and win with the Lakers, that could be very influential to the game of basketball in the future.
Unfortunately,
as much as I hate to say it, it's possible.
No, you're 100% right, and it is unfortunate that is the case.
Yeah, because you're gonna have all these children watching LeBron cherry picking to win, and it'll carry forward like every other trend that LeBron has started has.
Yeah. But, so I mean, it's going to be tough to see. It's definitely going to be a little bit of a struggle for these guys, but I think it's about that time. It's currently 8:03 here on Wednesday.
Mm-hmm.
Before we end up heading off for the night, I did want to let you guys know that next Friday's show is going to be our last show of the semester. We're unsure as to what we're going to do throughout the winter. Maybe we're going to try to have some broadcast to you guys, but it probably won't be in this regular fashion that we've been doing it throughout this fall semester. So we'll try to tell you guys about that possible schedule when we make it. But our last show of the semester from 7 to 8 will be on campus. It'll be on Facebook Live, and we'll try to send you guys off.
Yeah.
We'll try to send you guys off pretty well.
To get maybe I shouldn't be saying this to keep suspense, but like a Thanksgiving special or something like that, when we can talk about free agency when we're home or something.
Honestly,
Continue, something like that. We'll have
maybe little something over Thanksgiving break. Get Tyler on the show back.
Something like that, yeah.
That'd be good to see. I'd love to see
some guests.
But it's about that time. We are officially down to the wire, so that means we're going to go over everything that we talked about in the past hour and try to wrap this show up before I have to split this Facebook Live into two parts. Carter, will you bring up that timer so that way I know?
Yeah.
We got like 3 minutes.
3 minutes.
So in NCAA news, we talked about Notre Dame. We talked about Notre Dame upsetting number 1 Clemson. It was a double overtime thriller. The game ended 47-40, but the main story was fans rushing the field. We talked about that. College kids are just going to be stupid and do what they do. And NFL news, we talked about the Green Bay Packers falling short on acquiring guys like Antonio Brown and Will Fuller at the deadline. We had special guest Pat Edwards on the show to discuss whether they are still legitimate contenders. Pat believes that the ceiling is still the Super Bowl this year. We had some disagreements on that. We also agreed that Devontae Adams at this point is performing like one of the best wide receivers in football. We also talked about a possible Jimmy G reunion in New England next year, as well as the narrow win that they got over the Jets this Monday. Additionally, we talked about the Bucs getting absolutely blown out by the Saints on Sunday Night Football. Brady had an ugly night he was 22 of 38, 300. That was weird. He was 20.
Like pants of bug just flew on me.
He was 22 of 38, 290 yards, 3 picks. AB was a non-factor in the loss. He had 5 targets, 3 receptions, for 31 yards. We also talked whether J.J. Watt will run out of Houston. We discussed Joe Namath saying that he thinks that Trevor Lawrence should request a trade if New York drafts him. In MLB news, we talked if the Red Sox should spend big in free agency. And in NBA news, we talked about whether the 76ers should try to go after James Harden and how much the rookies will struggle in this new season because of the limited offseason. The NFL draft starts in a week. Not the NFL, the NBA draft will be occurring in a week. And we just also said that maybe a Thanksgiving special and some special winter break shows will be on the docket.
Yeah,
I'm definitely excited. I'm definitely excited to see what we can do over this winter break. And when we get back, we're gonna try to get back into the swing of things and be firing on all cylinders.
Definitely. Yeah, we got big plans for you guys coming up.
Yeah.
So.
I mean, I think that Tyler's schedule will be a little better, so that's also good. So
yeah.
From down the wire, I'm Brian Costa.
I'm Carter Adams.
Have a great night, everyone.
Thank you as always for the support.
We'll see you Friday.
Appreciate it.